obvious sensor mode is 4.5K open gate. That gives you every pixel off the sensor from side to side, top to bottom. From there, there's a 2.39 full frame mode. And that gives you the full width of the sensor. It just crops off the top and bottom to give you that 2.39 aspect ratio. The next mode is where it gets interesting for Super 35 lenses. It's a 16:9 UHD mode. It takes a UHD crop of the 4.5K sensor in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So basically it's cropping off a little bit of the top and bottom as well as a little bit on the sides to get that 16:9. So from there are a couple other 16:9 modes. There's a 2K 16:9 and an HD 16:9. And those modes are actually just a downsample from the UHD mode. And so there's no additional cropping in on the sensor like you get on a red when you're down-resing from 8 to 7 to 6 to 5K and you're kind of cropping in, punching in on the sensor, right? So these are the 2K and HD are just a downsample from that UHD initial crop from the full 4.5K. So because of that, there's no change in your field of view. So one thing I wanted to mention before I go on and talk about how the different sensor modes help us when we're using Super 35 lenses is that one thing to remember about the ARRI sensor is that it is a more or less 4:3 aspect ratio. Not quite, but it's really close, which means that it's really close to a square, right? Square. And so what that means is that think about if you're trying to draw a circle inside a square, right? And you draw the circle so that it touches all four sides, okay? So what you're left with then is just the corners that aren't covered by that circle. So to me, what that means in theory is that it should be easier to get a lens to cover that square rather than a sensor that's more rectangular like a red Monstro, right? Because think if you've got a rectangle and then you try to draw that same circle in the rectangle, once you hit the top and bottom, you've got a lot more on the sides that circle's not covering. I don't mean that as a dig at red by any means, that's just kind of how it is. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that you can take any Super 35 lens, throw it on the LF, and you're going to have coverage except for in the corners. What I am saying though is don't discount the Mini LF because you have your favorite lenses that you want to use, but they're only Super 35 coverage. I don't want to get bogged down in all the technical details. Literally what I did was take the Sigma Cine Zooms, put it on the camera, and run it through all the different sensor modes to see what I could get away with. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking now so you can check out what I came up with. I just wanted to jump in and mention really quick that if you look at this lens coverage in full frame open gate, like I said, it's closer to a square. You can see in the corners that it's completely black, like there's no coverage there at all. Now, if you look at the frame lens I've put up for the 16:9 and the